everybody, welcome to this new session of TN Learn. Today we'll be discussing the layers. Now what are layers? Well, actually here in this model, let me show it to you. Once I select a certain entity, for example this 1D member, you'll find it as an attribute of this member. As you can see here, the option layer has been put here to layer 1, and this is actually done default by SCIA. Now what does this exactly do? Well, by default every entity has a certain layer, and by using these layers you can actually get certain types of view of your project, which can be helpful, for example when making pictures for your engineering report, or even deactivate or activate certain elements within layers to help you model certain elements a bit easier. It can also be even used as a filter when looking at results. So let's jump right into this layer function. As I stated before, the layer 1 is the default layer within SCIA, so every entity has this current layer. Now how do we change it? First of all, we can select a certain entity, we can go to the layer option, and we do have the 3 little dots here. This will open the layer function. We can of course also access layer function several other ways. The first one being in the main tree, we will find at the bottom the tools function, and then under tools we do have layers. The second one being tools at the top, and then also finding it here, the layers. And if you see the icon here as well, you can find it in the toolbar as well as this shortcut, the layer function right here. If I click on it, it will open like this, and you will have this little window. As I stated before, there's only one layer, layer 1, because that's the default one within SCIA. Now if I want to, I can change this layer or even make a new one. For example, let's make a new one called frames. Maybe let's make a second new one also called roof. Like this, we now made 2 extra layers. And how are we going to use this one? Well, maybe I'm going to, because of the frames, I want the columns to be inputted into the layer frames. I'm going to filter by cross section. Now I have every column. Now I can change the layer from layer 1 to frames. And maybe I can also here input some little columns. And the roof, these are column parapets, and I want these one into the layer roof. Of course we can create some new layers, select certain entities and put those ones into layers, but I've already done this and saved it into another project, which you can see right here. If I open the layer function right now, you will see I have several layers already made within this project. Now let's focus maybe on the first one, the frames layer. What can you actually change within this layer? First of all, the name, that's of course frames. I can put a comment if I want to. Then I can put a certain color to a layer that can be used when, for example, changing the view parameters. Then you can actually have different colors for different layers if you want to. Then you can also activate or deactivate the structural model only option, and also the current used activity option. First, let's start with the current used activity option. This is activated and you will see the yes popping up here, of course. I also see that the floor and the roof are also inputted to yes, so I'm going to deactivate this. So only the frames has now, only the layer of frames now has the current used activity function put on. If I now close my window, what will now happen is actually now I'm going to see all of the entities that are put into the layer of the frames. This is done of course by the activity, so if you're wanting to change that, you can do this into the activity toolbar here at the top, or you can go to tools and activity. You will find the activities function right there as well. So since I use a certain activity, the activity toggle is turned on. If I deactivate a one, I will have every member or entity in my project once again. I can change this around, if I go to tools, layers, I can for example also show the floor and roof as well as current use activities. And then if I close it, you will see more entities appearing because I also used more layers. Then also the structural model only option, what does that do? Well, imagine having a really big project with also some parts of the project that are actually not load bearing, and therefore not really needed in the project as well. So they're actually just there as sort of understudy elements to give a nicer view for the whole model. What you can do then, since they don't have any load bearing capacity and they're therefore just there for making a nicer picture of your model, you can put all these entities into a certain layer and then activate the structural model only option. Then of course, since this is turned on, all the entities within this layer will not be used within the calculation, which is exactly what we want if you're going to input them into a structural model only layer. So that's that. Now we can use the layers already for certain views and also help that with modeling, but there's even an easier way to do that by using the activities function as well. Here I'm going to deactivate the activity toggle once again, and then the option right next to it is the activities by layer option. If I open that, you will see here we have two options to start with. The first one being a one layer activity. So for example, if I want to show the bracings, let's say I can close this one and then now only have the bracings activated. I can change this around however I want to. Then we have this one. This is a default one by SCIA once again, the settings 2. I can change this name if I want to, and for example call it frames. The floor is also activated and the roof was also activated. That's why I'm calling it frames, floor and roof. I can even make new ones if I want to. For example, let's say frames plus bracings. Then of course we're going to change the activities in the correct order. And then let's say a final one, maybe floor plus roof as well. I'm going to activate these and deactivate these. Now what do these three types of activities do? Well, actually when changing in between these, you actually have a saved set of your layers. So if I'm going to choose the first one, now my frames, floor and roof layers will be shown once I close this one, as you can see here. I can go back to the activity function right here. I can change it around to maybe the frames and bracings. So now my floor and roof will disappear and my bracings will appear, as you can see here. And then finally the last one being the floor and roof, you can change between those layers as well. So actually you can use a saved set of certain layers if you want to. Again, helpful with the modeling or maybe making pictures to put in your engineering report. Then the final option, I'm going to show you what you can do with the layers if I deactivate the activity toggle first, is actually that you can input or get results only onto certain layers. Of course, you need the project to be calculated, which was already done in this case. So let's jump into the results menu. If we now go to beams, let's state the internal forces. We do have a certain combinations we want to ask moments MY for. Right now we do have the type of selection put to all and the filter put to cross section. This is almost what we want because we're going to ask for the moments into the layer of the frames, and of course my columns were part of that layer. Now if I do it like this, of course only my columns will be shown as the results. That's not what I want. I want to have the moment around my full frames. So I'm going to change the filter from cross section or no, which is done default within SCIA, and you can put it to layer. Once you've put it to layer, here you can see you can choose the layer of which entities that are put into that layer and where you want to ask the results for. So let's go with the frames. And if I now refresh my results, you will see I get the result for every entity I put into the layer of the frames. Now this is maybe not that nice to see. So if I want to, I can again change the one layer activity. I can change the active layer, maybe here to frames. And then you will see if I refresh the results, I get these results only for my frames elements. And that's how you use the layer filter for the result as well. That's actually also everything I wanted to tell you about the layer. So remember that it can be a really useful tool for modeling, for making pictures to send to the engineer report, and then you can also use it when looking at results. Hopefully you can put this information to good practice. That's all from me today. Hope you enjoyed it, and until next time, bye.